Remember, the future of gardening isn't plastic, but the soil's memory of what came before. When you choose to adopt these methods, you are not just growing vegetables, you are growing knowledge, resilience, and freedom. Each seed becomes a vote for diversity, each homemade fertilizer a rejection of waste, and every living trellis or hugel mound a statement that we, too, can step out of the cycle of extraction. This is more than nostalgia. It's a path forward that honors the past and ensures that fertile soil and clean water remain in the hands of those who tend them. Top 20 Forgotten Gardening Techniques that outperform modern methods. Once upon a time, gardens were not aisles of products. There were no signature fertilizers, no plastic cages, no special soil mixes. People grew food using simple relationships: water carried in clay, soil built from kitchen waste and fallen logs, harvests measured by meals. Those methods disappeared not because they failed, but because they worked too well without being sold. Today, we rediscover 20 practices that put life back into your soil and independence back into your hands. They live in footnotes, folk wisdom, and the margins of seed catalogs, many you've never heard of, all loosen the grip of the consumer loop. Ready? Let's dig up some buried wisdom. These techniques show what gardening was before consumption ruled. They prove that observation and partnership can produce abundance without purchases. Number 1. Olla irrigation. Clay pots as lifelines. Fill a clay pot, bury it beside your plants, and watch them drink from it for days. This ancient technique, called an olla, uses unglazed pottery as a slow-release reservoir. Roots wrap around the pot and draw water through tiny pores. There is no evaporation or runoff. You refill when the pot is empty, not when the surface looks dry. It works because soil and roots regulate the flow better than any timer, saving most of the water you'd normally lose through sprinklers. Why was it forgotten? Because pottery you can make yourself doesn't sell irrigation systems. Ollas teach patience. A silent jug underground delivers water, drop by drop, turning daily watering into a weekly ritual and replacing gadgets with physics. Number 2, hügelkultur, feeding the soil with logs. In steep, rocky regions of Europe, farmers stacked logs, branches, and leaves into long mounds, covered them with soil, and planted on top. As the wood decayed, it soaked up rain, released nutrients, and warmed the mound. A hugel bed can stay fertile and moist for years with little input. Today, we're told to clear brush and buy compost, yet hugel culture turns yard waste into a raised bed that waters and feeds itself. It's messy, unconventional, and impossible to package exactly why it was sidelined. A fallen tree sprouting mushrooms and seedlings is hugel culture in miniature. Hugel beds mimic that decay, creating mounds with cool north sides and sun-baked south slopes, turning yard waste into living sculptures. Number 3, keyhole gardens, circles of abundance. Keyhole gardens, used in dry parts of Africa, are circular beds with a notch, the keyhole, so you can reach the center compost basket. Food scraps and gray water go in the middle, where they decompose and feed the surrounding soil. Layers of sticks, manure, and soil build the bed up, creating a raised garden that holds moisture and nutrients. One small space produces abundantly with almost no outside inputs. You don't see them in glossy catalogs because they combine composting, irrigation, and gardening in one low-tech system. Seen from above, a keyhole bed radiates like a sunburst. Scraps and dishwater feed the central basket, and nutrients wick into the raised bed, which drains in rain and retains moisture in drought. Number 4, terra preta and biochar. Turning fire into fertility. Indigenous people of the Amazon created dark, fertile soil by mixing charcoal, bones, and scraps into the earth. The charcoal, called biochar, holds nutrients and water like a sponge and provides habitat for beneficial microbes. Unlike commercial fertilizers that wash away, Biochar remains for centuries, slowly releasing nutrients. It's a one-time investment you can make yourself, which is precisely why it hasn't been embraced by companies selling bags of fertilizer. To make biochar, char wood, mix it with compost and bury it. It doesn't rot, so carbon stays sequestered while microbes thrive, echoing the dark earths of the Amazon. Number 5. Sheet mulching. Lasagna for the landsheet. Mulching converts lawn or weeds into garden beds by layering cardboard or newspaper, then piling alternating layers of dry brown material and moist green material on top. Worms and microbes break down the layers over months, leaving a rich, weed-free bed. You skip the backbreaking sod removal and rototilling. Instead of buying new soil, you make it. It requires patience and messy materials. Two things companies can't patent, so it's rarely mentioned. Sheet mulching smothers weeds with cardboard and builds soil from leaves and scraps. By spring, earthworms have done the tilling for you. Number 6. Terracing. Making hillsides into havens. Terraces are flat steps cut into slopes and held by stone or earth. They slow down rainwater, allowing it to soak in rather than wash soil away. Terracing lets you garden on a hillside and prevents erosion in heavy storms. It's laborious to build, but lasts for generations. Modern agriculture abandoned terracing for cheap fertilizer and heavy equipment, yet terraces still outperform chemicals when it comes to water management and soil retention. On a terrace, each level spreads water evenly and stops it from rushing down, allowing you to cultivate on slopes you once considered useless. Number 7. Cover crops. Feeding the soil between harvests. Cover crops like clover, rye, or vetch blanket bare soil after harvest. They capture nutrients, prevent erosion, and feed soil organisms. Legumes host bacteria that fix nitrogen from the air, acting as free fertilizer for next year's crop. When turned under, cover crops become green manure, adding organic matter and suppressing weeds. Synthetic fertilizers made cover cropping seem unnecessary, but nothing in a bag replenishes soil structure like plants do. Cover crops also invite pollinators and beneficial insects, drill deep roots that break up compaction and leave behind a protective mulch after mowing. They turn a season of emptiness into a season of nourishment. Number 8. Living mulch. Clover. Underfoot. Living mulches are low plants, such as white clover, grown between or under your crops. They keep soil covered, suppress weeds, and contribute nitrogen. You mow or cut them periodically and leave the clippings to feed the soil. They compete less than weeds and reduce watering by shading the soil. Today, gardeners line beds with plastic or shredded bark. Living mulch is free, self-renewing, and messy, which is why it's considered unconventional. Living mulches provide habitat for pollinators and nitrogen-fixing bacteria. When cut, they regrow, weaving fertility into the ground while your main crops thrive. Number 9. Cold frames and low tunnels. Season stretchers. A cold frame is a simple box with a clear lid that traps solar heat and protects seedlings from frost. Low tunnels are hoops draped with plastic or fabric over rows. Both let you plant earlier in spring and harvest longer in fall without expensive greenhouses or lights. They're portable, reusable, and low-tech. They fell out of fashion as gardeners embraced heated greenhouses and grow lights, but the sun still works and costs nothing. Cold frames capture winter sun, and low tunnels create protected rows that breathe on warm days and insulate on cold nights. Made from scrap wood, old windows, or simple hoops and row cover, they let you harvest greens in winter and start seeds early without high-tech gear. Number 10. Hotbeds. Compost heaters. Before electricity, gardeners heated seedbeds with decomposing manure or compost. A layer of fresh manure under a bed of soil can raise temperatures enough to germinate seeds weeks earlier. As the manure composts, it releases heat and nutrients. Today, we plug in heating mats. Hotbeds smell and require work, but they turn waste into warmth. Once you've seen seedlings thrive on this free heat, the plugs don't look as appealing. Hotbeds are made by stacking manure and straw to generate heat under a layer of soil and a cold frame top. The microbe-generated warmth can last for weeks and jumpstart cucumbers, melons, and other warmth lovers long before summer arrives. Number 11, phenology planting by signs, not calendars. Phenology is the practice of observing natural cues, like blooming dandelions or migrating birds, to time your planting and harvest. It aligns your garden activities with local climate patterns better than a generic calendar. People once learned from nature, but we replaced that knowledge with charts and apps. Relearning these cues reconnects you to your land and helps avoid frost or heat by following the actual season, not the one printed on seed packets. When lilacs bud, it may be time to plant lettuce. When oak leaves reach the size of a squirrel's ear, plant your corn. Such signals vary by region, but train you to look beyond the calendar and let nature be your weather service. Number 12, crop rotation, the anti-exhaustion plan. Crop rotation is simple. Don't grow the same thing in the same place year after year. Alternating families of plants disrupts pest cycles and balances nutrient use. Heavy feeders follow, nitrogen-fixing legumes. Root crops followed leafy greens. Farmers practiced this for centuries. Romans used a 3-field system with 1 field fallow each year. Monocultures and chemical fertilizers made rotation seem optional. Yet moving crops around is still the easiest way to prevent soil exhaustion. Rotating crops maximizes diversity above and below ground. Different plants feed different microbes, creating a mosaic of organisms that keep pathogens in check and give your soil a balanced diet. Number 13, companion planting and the 3 sisters. Plant guilds in practice plants evolved in communities. Corn, beans, and squash grow better together. Corn offers a pole, beans fix nitrogen, and squash shades soil and deters weeds. Herbs like basil improve tomato flavor and repel insects. Marigolds deter nematodes. Companion planting uses these relationships to reduce pests and boost growth. Modern farming separated crops into monocultures, breaking the partnerships. Bringing companions back reduces the need for sprays and fertilizers. Companion planting can be as simple as tucking a few flowers into your beds, or as complex as designing guilds where each plant supports the others. Nasturtiums lure pests away, and herbs bring in predators, creating a bed alive with beneficial insects and healthier plants. Number 14, forest gardening, designing edible ecosystems. A food forest mimics natural woodland layers, trees overhead, shrubs and vines beneath, herbs and ground covers on the floor. Each layer yields food, and many plants fix nitrogen or attract pollinators. Once established, the system is self-mulching and self-fertilizing. It's slower to set up than a vegetable row, but it produces for decades with minimal input. You won't find a prefab kit for food forests, which is why the concept stays niche. Yet it's one of the most resilient and productive ways to garden. In a mature food forest, leaf litter composts in place and wildlife disperses seeds and controls pests. The forest feeds itself and you. You tend and harvest rather than replanting annually, reaping shade, fruit, and habitat. Number 15, swales and water. Harvesting. Earthworks. As irrigation swales are shallow trenches dug along contour lines to capture rainwater. They slow runoff and allow water to seep into the soil. Planted with trees or perennial crops, swales recharge groundwater and reduce the need for irrigation. In arid lands, they turn runoff into a resource. They're cheap and permanent, but because they require shovels, not sprinklers, they never caught on with irrigation equipment vendors. Swales capture rain, letting it soak slowly into the landscape. Over time, the soil becomes a sponge, and even springs may return. Combined with terraces or keyholes, they create a self-watering landscape. Number 16. Greywater systems recycling household. Water greywater reuse is simple. Redirect relatively clean water from showers or washing machines to your garden. Biodegradable soaps break down into nutrients. A simple hose to a mulch pit can irrigate fruit trees or shrubs. Plumbing codes and fears of contamination pushed greywater aside. But in drought-prone areas, it's being revived. It uses water twice and provides nutrients for free. What industry sells is pure water and treatment plants, not reuse. Greywater systems can be as simple as diverting a washing machine hose into a mulch pit. Mulch and soil filter the water, and deep-rooted trees appreciate the extra moisture. Reusing water once destined for the sewer cuts your footprint and greens your yard. Number 17. Wicking beds, bottom-up hydration. Wicking beds water plants from below. A reservoir at the bottom of a bed holds water. Soil above draws it upward by capillary action. Once filled, the reservoir can keep plants happy for days with no top watering. This reduces evaporation and prevents water stress. Wicking beds are easy to build with a container, gravel, and fabric. You build it once and stop watering daily. Because you don't need to buy watering systems each season, wicking beds remain on the fringe. Wicking beds shine in hot climates or for gardeners who travel. Water stays sealed underground. Fewer weed seeds sprout, and soil stays evenly moist. They combine the low maintenance of hydroponics with the richness of soil. Number 18. Straw bale gardening soil. Optional. Instead of soil, grow in a bale of straw. Soak and fertilize the bale to start decomposition. Plant seedlings into pockets and let the straw act as both container and compost. The bale holds moisture and provides nutrients as it breaks down. When the season ends, what's left becomes mulch or compost. Straw bale gardening is perfect for places with poor soil or mobility issues. It looks rustic and doesn't involve expensive raised beds or potting mixes. That rusticity is its charm and why it's not widely promoted. Condition a straw bale by watering and fertilizing it for a couple of weeks. As it warms, plant heat-loving crops into pockets. The straw insulates roots and, once decomposed, leaves behind rich compost for next season. Number 19. Compost tea and liquid gold, brewing nutrients. Steep finished compost in water for a day or two to make compost tea. A nutrient-rich liquid you can spray on leaves or pour at roots. It introduces beneficial microbes and soluble nutrients. Another nutrient source is diluted urine, about 1 part urine to 10 parts water. Urine is rich in nitrogen and was once valued, not flushed away. These homemade fertilizers are free and effective. They're also unmarketable, which is why you see them in old manuals but not on store shelves. Compost tea should smell earthy, not sour. Brewed with aeration, it multiplies microbes that suppress disease. Urine used, fresh and diluted, is a potent fertilizer. These liquids close the nutrient cycle, showing that nothing in nature is disposable. Number 20. Moon planting and biodynamic rhythms. Gardening by the sky. Biodynamic gardening aligns sowing and harvesting with lunar phases and astrological signs. Leafy crops are planted as the moon waxes, root crops as it wanes. Practitioners claim improved germination and growth, though science is skeptical. Whether the moon influences sap flow or not, biodynamics teaches observation and timing based on natural rhythms. It also includes herbal preparations for compost and soil. There's nothing to sell beyond a calendar, so biodynamics remains a fringe practice with devoted followers. Biodynamics views the farm as an organism and uses preparations made from herbs to stimulate soil life. It encourages growers to see themselves as part of larger rhythms. Even if you don't follow it precisely, the idea of planting with intention can change how you relate to your land. Fukuoka's natural farming, doing less and getting more. Masanobu Fukuoka abandoned plowing, fertilizing, pruning, and pesticide use in his rice and citrus fields. He sowed seeds coated in clay, let clover grow as mulch, and cut weeds to lay them down as compost. His yields matched those of conventional farmers with a fraction of the labor. Natural farming isn't neglect. It's working with nature's cycles instead of fighting them. It undermines the idea that more inputs equal more output, which is why it's rarely taught. Fukuoka saw weeds as allies. He seeded clover under grains, cut it when needed, and left the clippings on the soil. He never flooded his paddies, saving water and encouraging diversity. His messy fields invite us to ask whether our chores are truly necessary or if worms and weeds can do the work. Conclusion: restoring relationship, not purchasing solutions. Every method here shares a theme. They repair the relationship between plant, soil, and gardener, rely on observation and patience, and use local materials. They aren't sold because they give freedom instead of creating customers. Embrace even a few of these ideas, and your soil will improve while your shopping list shrinks. Abundance grows from partnership, not products. Plant a pot, sink a jar, build a mound, and let nature teach you.